Boxing King Media in association with Boxer. Always delighted to be joined by Mr. Jeff Powell of the Daily Mail. We've just seen a huge crossover press conference, Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou. We've seen it before with Mayweather McGregor. Same sort of excitement for you, Jeff?
It's about the same, yes. We're going to need convincing about these fights, aren't we? Mayweather just carried McGregor for long enough to keep it vaguely interesting. I don't see actually Tyson doing that. He's a fighter of instinct, whereas Mayweather is a composed thinker about the game. Tyson's intelligent, but he's also got tremendous energy, and he likes to get on the front foot and fight. So I think it'll be a different kind of fight. I certainly hope so, and I certainly hope that Ngannou can come and make some kind of a fist of it. He's supposed to have a very good fist. He's supposed to be the biggest hitter in combat sports. Interesting if he lands on Tyson, but I think even if he did, Tyson always gets up. He's proved that before with Wilder. So, if he can land a big hit on Tyson, it'll be fascinating to see. I think it'll hopefully be a bit more of a fight than Mayweather-McGregor, because Tyson's instincts and Ngannou's instincts are to have a real set to. What it all means, goodness only knows. What it does for boxing, goodness only knows. If it does turn out to be a spectacular, let's hope so, then it won't look like the farce a lot of people are predicting. It's an event in its own right. It's an occasion in its own right. I'd like to think it will be a fight in its own right.
What do you think Tyson gains from fighting Francis Ngannou other than the money?
Well, the money's never to be sneezed at. We've seen that with Jordan Henderson going to Saudi Arabia. I think some of the people who'd be critical of him, continuing to pull in the millions, might want to be a bit more quiet about it now. As he says, it's happening in all sports. Saudi Arabia is taking over a lot of sport, a lot of football, a lot of everything, and they want to be big on the combat sports. They want to be big in boxing. They couldn't get the Usyk fight with Fury over the line, which he is now saying is even less likely to happen after the fracas with Usyk and Dubois in Poland, where perhaps neither of them particularly excelled themselves. So if that can't happen, he might as well fight Ngannou, because he is saying now it's hard for him to find a marketable opponent. Wilder perhaps could come again, but that would need everything else to fall apart. And frankly, who else is there?
Interesting thoughts there, Jeff. What about, I don't know if you've heard, there's rumours ongoing that this new entity that's put this event on, they are going to be taking over the boxing side of things away from Skills Challenge. Have you heard that as well? Because I spoke to Shane Fury a bit ago, and he suggested that Wilder Joshua's dead in the water because the money's not there anymore.
There are rumours to that effect. It makes a bit of a mess of Joshua's plans, having had a couple of low-key fights, hoping just to hold on for a big fight with Wilder being so dangerous, possibly a big cash-out fight. And maybe this new entity will take over that fight. Although I don't think we're going to see the projected double-header of Joshua Wilder and Fury Usyk on the same night. And that always struck me as a most peculiar way of going about things. If the intention is to bring sports interest and sports fans from around the world to Saudi Arabia, why would you do two big fights on the same night? If you do them just a week apart, you get the tourists there for 2 or 3 weeks. So the whole logic of that smacked of desperation.
Well, Turkey Al Sheikh, who's putting this event on, we saw a picture of him and Usyk yesterday, and Usyk is supposed to have a 2-fight deal with Skills Challenge. I don't know if you saw that picture. What do you make of all that?
Nothing. I think everything's blowing in the wind there at the moment.
I don't know if you've heard. Did you hear about the fracas between David Adderley and Fabio Wardley on the red carpet? I think yeah. Fabio's ended up with a cut.
Yes, I did. It's unfortunate. it may, depending on how bad the cut is, the Wardley's friend might have done him no favours, because the fight's, what, 7 weeks away, isn't it? And you know, if it is a cut of any significance, it's going to take a time to heal. I don't know if any boxing authority would then look at that behaviour and not be too happy to sanction the fight. If this was under the control of the British Boxing Board of Control, I think they'd be taking a serious look at it and saying, if these people can't behave themselves at a press conference, they've got to give us a very good reason why we would sanction a fight between them in the immediate future.
Also, Jeff, I wanted to ask you about the split. If AJ and Fury do fight after this, there's an interesting thought process from Fury's camp. They basically see the fact that Tyson's been on Netflix, he's crossovered with wrestling before, he's now having a crossover fight with an MMA guy. He's obviously bringing a huge audience to himself. So they've kind of suggested the previous deal of 60-40 for AJ is off the table. What do you think to that?
I think Tyson will be looking for, at the very least, 70-30 in his favour. And frankly, he is the much more marketable fighter in this equation. AJ's tapering off, and he looked a bit hesitant in the last fight, although he landed his Sunday punch in due course. But Tyson's always the big sell.
The last thing I want to speak to you about, Jeff, is that this whole issue with VADA. We've seen over the last week so many interviews about VADA being pushed away. Just tell me this, because I find this hard to understand. We've seen over the last year, obviously we've seen the Conor Benn situation, which still needs to play itself out. We've got Robert Helenius, Alicia Baumgardner, Dillian White, and another fighter the other day. So that's 5 fighters that we know of. But 4 out of the 5 all protesting their innocence. And I know in the Conor situation, the issues were raised about how the testing was done in the VADA lab, and obviously the other 3 fighters are all rejecting the positive test. So what are the promoters paying for? Because it seems like the fighters won't accept what's been delivered to them.
It's an interesting menage. How much do the promoters know about what's going on, and how rife is it? How many gyms is it rife in? And there are suggestions that there are 1 or 2 prominent gyms in this country which are pushing their fighters to take substances. It's a mess to clear up. There's such an amount of legal wrangling involved and legal expenses that it's very difficult for the British Board of Control to do it. But 2 things have to be said. You can't keep saying that VADA have messed up the testing, as Conor Benn has. Would they really do it twice in his case? You can't. Everybody keeps saying, well, they've messed up the testing, when there's no evidence of that before. And most fighters in America who are caught by them accept that, get on with it, take their ban, and don't waste more time. There's got to be a serious rethink here. The one big problem is UKAD, that there's no transparency, and there seems to be no urgency about doing what they're doing. If UKAD are going to control drugs in sport in this country, and they've been as lax with many other sports, including the Olympic disciplines, as they're being slow with boxing, they need to get on with it, come out into the open. We want transparency about every test. We should never go back to the situation where the opponent of Dillian White, Oscar Rivas, went into the fight not being told that Dillian had potentially failed a drugs test just before. Dillian was later cleared, but that fighter was abused in that occasion. That can be stopped by having complete transparency. As soon as anyone tests positive or appears to test positive, it should be announced, and it should then go to arbitration if needs be, and it should happen quickly. The delays are a big problem for this sport of ours.
Well, just one question on what you just said there. You said a lot of gyms are pushing it. Where have you heard that from? I'm guessing you're not going to sit here and tell which gyms you're talking about.
No, I'm not. I won't go any further on that.
Jeff Powell, as always, I appreciate your time, and hopefully I'll see you in Riyadh.
Okay, yeah, will do.
Thank you.